His name was what now?
His name was Mr. Fisher.
Just clarify.
Yeah. He said, which is kind of funny.
There it is.
He's
about 3 seconds longer than I expected.
Yes. He said, I want you to stand there and make donkey noises at that hat until it talks back. And when it talks back, you can leave my office. And I said, okay. So I went and stood in front of the hat and I started going, eonk, eonk, eonk. Welcome to the Empowering Choices podcast. My name is Joshua.
I am Lucas.
And I'm Erik.
Lucas and Erik are licensed professional counselors, and today's title is called Hyperdonkey. Which
I was really going to
title.
do my intro with donkey noises, but you literally said that's what this is about.
Yes.
That was the saddest donkey noise I've ever heard in my life. Josh.
But I could get much more wild.
So much sadder.
Yes.
So much sadder.
And more hyper.
Wait, Eeyore's a donkey, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always me.
I think that's the thumbnail is Eeyore.
Eeyore. Yeah, that's pretty funny.
Always Josh.
Eeyore moving slowly.
But that wasn't you in school,
No,
Josh. This
no.
is you were talking about being a
Right.
kid who wouldn't sit still, who bounced off the walls, and apparently made donkey noises.
Yeah, so basically I was a little extra when I was in school.
Little extra. Is that how the kids say it these days? Josh
Maybe.
was a little extra?
Yeah, I was a little extra. I just always had a lot of energy. I was the kind of kid that I remember people always saying something about, I wish I had that much energy. You have so much energy. You're bouncing off the walls. And that was just me. So school naturally was very boring to me.
School's not designed for that set of skills.
No, because school was, here's all your desk, sit down. They had so many rules. You rock your chair, you're in trouble. Well, I would rock my chair all the time. So I was always having to sit on the floor. I spent most of my school out in the hallway because that's how some teachers would deal with me. Others would have the check marks and they would just keep adding up. But fourth grade was particularly a hard year. Fifth grade was a hard year. Really.
He's wait a second.
Yeah,
That's all of the numbers in sequence, Josh.
Many of these are a hard year. But this was fourth or fifth grade. I was, for some reason, I just had in my head donkey noises. And so I was going around eonk, 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 eonk. And I was doing that, and the teacher was getting fed up with it. And so she was putting my name on the board. She was putting the check marks. And she said, if you make one more donkey noise, you're going to the office. And I remember thinking to myself, I don't want to go to the office. I got to not make a donkey noise.
That genuinely was something that you were interested in paying attention to.
Yes, because I didn't want to do that. However, just old habits die hard.
Sure,
that I had picked
been
up that
locked
morning.
in for at least 36 hours.
Exactly. So just a little bit later, I don't remember what it was. Something happened, and I went eonk, and she said, "That's it.
Right.
You're going down to the office." So I had to go down to the office and tell the principal, Mr. Fisher, that I had been making donkey noises. And here's what he did, which I thought was a very unusual punishment for this. He said, well, you see that hat over there? I said, yes. And he said, that's my fishing hat. It's got all the little hooks and lures and everything. It was his lucky, hat he took fishing.
His name was what now?
His name was Mr. Fisher.
Just clarify.
Yeah. He said, which is kind of funny.
There it is.
He's
about 3 seconds longer than I expected.
Yes. He said, I want you to stand there and make donkey noises at that hat until it talks back. And when it talks back, you can leave my office. And I said, okay. So I went and stood in front of the hat and I started going, eonk, eonk, eonk.
Until it talks back.
Now, at some point, he left his office. He was in and out. I'm sure that
doing stuff.
The secretaries were enjoying hearing me eonking in there. People were walking by. And for me, it felt like it was hours. In reality...
Probably 20 minutes.
Right. In reality, it was probably, 20, 30 minutes. But eventually, he came back and he said, did it talk back yet? And I said, no, sir. And he said, okay, well, sometimes that happens, but as long as you'll quit making, and you got it all out of your system, and you'll quit making the noises, I'll send you back to the classroom. And there I went, back to the classroom. So that's my donkey noise story, which
This is more like, I think the title for this podcast is Mr. Fisher's Talking Hat.
true. Yes, and I never heard it, but I tried.
And how many donkey noises did you make after that?
After that, I kind of had it out of my system for a bit.
So, which is what he was trying to do.
Yeah,
You know,
sure. Yeah.
it's a tool of, just making it a thing
right,
that didn't get you the reinforcement
right,
within the classroom or from the teacher. And you do it until you get it out of your system.
Yeah.
A lot of times that goes in a bad way to where, people cut down on the person in a degrading way.
Yeah.
He seemed to do it in a really good way.
Yeah.
In a positive light. I'm curious, is there anything the teacher could have done that would have helped you leave the donkey at the door?
That's a good question. I'm sure there. I'm just
picturing
were.
literally all right, Josh, you need to stable that thing outside.
Yeah,
you're going to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you leave Eeyore at the door?
Yeah. I mean, maybe if there had been like hey, let's do a short donkey segment and then let's move on or something. Or tell me why you're doing this or what's the fascination.
Yeah.
Because it was just immediately, you're not doing that.
Right.
Stop it.
Right.
Quit. Yeah.
But not nobody coming over and saying, hey, what's up?
Right.
I mean, if we were to learn about donkeys, would this help?
Yeah.
And that's sometimes that's the way is that sometimes we just get an impulse.
Yeah.
And then we get a reaction and then it feels kind of fun, either just to go with the noise or, in combination with the react. I'm sure some of the kids reacted and, there were snickers or laughs or maybe other barnyard animals that were popping their head in the door.
There's a chicken over in the corner now.
Right?
Yeah.
Which
that would have really just wrecked the teacher's day.
I did get voted most what is it? It was some kind of word that it was a kinder word for class clown in the 6th grade. But basically most like entertaining and so a lot of that feedback I liked. Yeah.
Right. A lot of that feedback there that was pulling in for you. And so I mean, and what do you do with over energy in the classroom? What do you do with hyperactivity?
Right.
And
you don't cut recess and PE.
Well, no, you don't. You definitely don't. That's one of the reasons why those were put in to beginning.
And probably music and theater and woodshop.
Mm-hmm.
Average 4th grader maybe doesn't belong in the wood shop, but we can.
Well, the average 4th grader doesn't have a wood shop to belong in.
Well, I was just contemplating things that would help get the energy out, right?
Yeah. And generally for the grade schoolers, it's going to be the running, the playing, the climbing, all of these things that they've done the research on that really, really helps.
Which is ironic because I did spend many punishments where it's because you
right,
had too much
to
energy, you don't get to go outside and run for 30 minutes, which was like the most exciting part of my day.
Yep.
Right. And probably helped reduce the donkey noises in the afternoon.
Totally.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because it got that out. I remember when I was in the classroom, there was a boy there. I'll just call him Billy. Billy was the most hyperactive kid that,
you were like a teacher's aide, right?
I was a federal aide. Yeah. And the teacher, just seeing Billy was all over the place.
Yeah.
And so one day when they were, I think they went down to music and the teacher came over and he took masking tape and he taped like a 2 foot by 2 foot box around Billy's desk. And then we put everything back, and of course, the kids came back, and Billy came back.
Had to be more like 4 feet.
4 feet. Yeah, well, I think
2 feet would be anyway.
Right. Well, I mean, I think we're saying the same thing. Just 2 feet out, so it's
okay.
Square box. Yeah. And he noticed the tape, and so he was like, "What is this?" And Neil was like, "Oh, Billy, that is such a good question. I'm so glad you asked that." Which he was very much the way he would approach a lot of things like that. Set it up and then compliment the question and the inquisitiveness. And he said, "Here's what we're going to do. You can do your work any way you want to, as long as you stay within the 4 foot box." So Billy looked at that and he thought about that. He's in 3rd grade and he goes, so I can do my work on my desk? Yes. I can do my work on my chair? Yes. I can do my work under my chair? Yes.
That's like a Dr. Seuss book.
I can do my work under my desk? Yes, exactly. Yes. As long as you stay inside the box.
Was there airspace on the box? Was there vertical limits?
No. No.
Nice.
Just the ceiling?
Well, kind of. We get to that. And he goes, okay, I think I understand. And so, I mean, the other kids are doing their work. Billy has pushed his chair over to the side. He is sitting down and he has his work spread out in the box, doing his work
On the floor.
on the floor. Or he's laying on his desk in the box, doing his work, like doing his work
Sure, upside down.
upside down.
Yeah.
Or he's laying on his feet are on his chair and his back is on the floor and he's doing his work
Right, upside down.
in the box.
Under the desk.
Under the desk. And, and so the only time we had to, because, the teacher had said, Neil had said, we'll see how this goes as to how Billy might spread out. And when it came to desk cleaning, Billy spread outside of the box in order to organize better. And so it's like, okay, you've got to keep all your things in the box too. And he's like, oh, I didn't realize, And so then
So he was concretely, I'm in the box.
I'm in the box.
I am,
Yes.
but my stuff, okay,
He
let's
didn't
clarify.
realize as an extension, your stuff is still you. Okay.
Right. Yeah, for the purposes of this exercise.
Once he had that, then all his stuff also stayed in the box. And he,
Like the girl who was running on the desks, right? Well, did anyone tell you not to run on the desks?
right?
No.
Yeah.
Billy, your stuff has to stay in the box.
So the focus wasn't to make him sit still. The focus was, how do we be able to allow him to have the space to be him that in a way does not disturb the other kids? Because prior to that, it's disturbing everybody. Once he has the limitation of the box, he then begins to work on his own impulses, and he's keeping himself within the box.
Right.
And, made it through that. Made it through the next year. He has to have the box around there. And got into the 5th grade, and they decided to try him on just a little bit of ADHD medicine. And he doesn't need that box anymore. I mean, he would sit there at the desk, and he had his hands folded. He was a 5th grader now, and he was the most focused kid that you'd ever seen.
Wow.
And it really was just a little bit of medication. It was the 2 years of him working on himself in the box that really helped him out.
Well, the thing I've heard about ADHD medication is that it will give you the opportunity to focus. It will not tell you what to focus on.
Right.
It's not just like a magic wand that suddenly makes your child like
Perfect.
mystical, right? It's like, oh, they just spent 3 hours focused on this, trying to ram a toothpick into the wall.
And I mean, some of the newer ADHD medications, as I've heard from some of my high school students, it does help them focus. It helps them lock on focus, and it heightens their other senses. So the kid way back here clicking his pen now sounds like it's right next to their ear. And so it's disturbing their focus, and it's driving them nuts. And when they turn and yell at the kid, now they're in trouble for anger issues. And
Ain't nothing perfect, is it?
Nothing's perfect. There has to be an understanding. If we want to have perfect kids in the classroom, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
We had another little girl, I'll call her Sally, and she also had huge ADHD. And she had just happened to be, getting off track, and I was walking by and she flipped her hair, and my hand was down at my side, but it caught her hair as she had turned and flipped it because she had long hair, and it just ran through her hair. And she stopped and she froze. And I went, okay, this is different. And she turned her head and she goes, could you do that again? And I'm like, do what? And she goes, put your hands through my hair. And I went, I looked at the teacher, and they were looking, and Neil nodded. And so I ran my hand down her hair. And she goes, and you could just see her whole body would kind of stiffen up in a way, but not in a bad way. And she goes, one more time. And so then I ran my hand down her hair one more time. And she goes, thank you. And she went back to the focus on her work. And she was focused for the next 40 minutes. And so we got together and we started to talk about that.
Right. It's like, well, that's interesting.
That was an interesting thing. And it's not like we can just come around and run our hands through people's hair.
Generally not advisable. No.
Now the next thing is, how does that work?
Well,
How
you
can
have
we
to take a step back of like, well, what was that?
What was that? And it was a part for her that completely refocused her ADHD. And so we got in contact with Dad, and he sent a brush.
I was just going to say, that's the direction I would have
Because
thought
we've
of.
got to find, what's the way we can do this. And Trish was the female aide in the room. And so whenever Sally needed to be refocused, she would raise her hand, and Trish would, no, actually, she didn't have to raise her hand. She would just walk over to Trish's desk, and Trish would stop whatever she was doing. She would pull out the brush, and she would brush her hair for a couple of minutes, and then Sally would go back to her desk, and she'd be completely refocused.
Have you seen those metal octopus head massager things?
Oh,
I don't think I have.
No,
I know exactly what you're talking about.
I was just it stimulates the scalp. That's the thing I was thinking of.
Yeah.
That could potentially. I don't know if that would be. Well, I mean, you'd have to.
It does
experiment with
something.
anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like
so
it puts kind of tingly pressure onto the scalp, and as with anything, you'd have to experiment with it.
And that was a little girl who was on some of the biggest medications, lithium, and I mean, she had like over 1,500 milligrams, and she stood like 3'5", and
So she had some stuff going on.
and a Depakote. So I mean, there was
Holy schmolies.
yeah, there was huge medications on board for this little girl, and the thing is, rather than just get more medications for her, and we found it out purely by accident,
100%.
but being able to now lodge that in kind of on the shelf, like when I run into a kid who has ADHD and a parent, and I'm like,
It's a tool you've I wonder.
have you guys ever tried this? And then see how that can be incorporated into their world. A part of hyperactivity, it's looked at as bad. Hyperactivity is a lot of energy. And before you get to hyperactivity, you actually have human beings who are not hyper that have a lot of energy. And so it's not that it's just we have these calm, cool, and collected kids,
Right.
and then we have the weird hyper ones.
Right.
Yeah.
No, we have a whole gambit of human beings who have variety of different amounts of energy, and it's bad to medicate it if it's not getting in the way.
Right. Yeah. And I feel like most of my issues were, so if I was at home, like in the summer, I would go outside, inside, outside, inside. So I would go run and do stuff. And then I would come inside, and then I would do something much more calm. Maybe I'm looking at an encyclopedia, or I do something, but then all of a sudden,
Self-directed?
Yeah. And then all of a sudden they put me in school, and it's like, nope,
was
you're going to sit
encyclopedia
here
all
for
the time.
hours, and you're going to whatever. And now you talked, so you can't even go outside for the little bit of time we were going to give you. And so I would just get absolutely bored. I would get my work done quickly, and then I would just be like, what am I going to do? So then I would just mess around. And the teachers that I felt like were really good.
So hang on. So you said your work was done.
Yeah, typically I would do it very
met their
quick.
expectations.
Yes.
And then you were bored.
Yes.
The donkey didn't
like-
come out till the work was done.
Yeah, typically I would do my. Granted, while they were explaining it, I was also bored. So typically during that, I was. But
like,
once
did
I
you
was
also-
given like a worksheet, I would. I'm going to
But
work.
then did you
on
also
that.
get it right?
Typically, I mean, I wasn't.
Well,
I
that's
did
like an
decent.
additional problem too of because I can envision a kid where they're making donkey noises and their work's not done.
Right.
But that wasn't you. That's like a different facet too.
Right. And so like some of the better teachers, they would let me do projects that then when I finished my math thing and everyone else is still doing it, I could go work and I would do like these like futuristic cities out of glue and stuff, or I would spend time like working on wiring or things
As long as
like
it wasn't
that.
the stuff in the walls, right?
True, but I did plug myself into the wall in the third grade. But that was for a total. That was
Is that a new? Okay, hold on. I'm taking notes.
it was a
When
that was
Josh
a totally.
plugged himself into the wall.
It made the teacher a little nervous, but
Uncle Fester.
it worked. I ran out of batteries for my project, so I had to use AC power, but it was okay. But yeah, like
It was okay. He's still with us, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, but
Also, don't do it yourself.
but like one
And
teacher
stop watching the Addams Family.
Right. One teacher let me work on, I made a telegraph. And so
Dude,
I would
awesome.
do fun and cool stuff. But yeah, most of mine came out of like, this is boring. I could be
Yeah.
having more fun, learning more at home. And I just didn't like this.
So this is like a smart kid who's bored.
I was very bored.
Because, I mean, that's a different problem.
Do you know what the biggest problem is with kids who have ADHD in the classroom?
What?
They don't sit still.
Smart kids who are bored.
Mm.
That is the biggest problem.
And see, go ahead.
No, it's
Yeah.
and that's like Billy. Billy was bored at different times because he would stay focused, get his work done,
Right.
and he needed the next things to be working on.
Yeah.
And it was a more self-directed classroom,
Right.
so you could do some of those different things.
Yeah.
There was more
Yeah.
material than he could do. Mm-hmm.
And see, I think my mom was actually a teacher. So she was very familiar with what was happening and the different teachers and what their styles were. And she never wanted, at the time, she did not want me to get officially tested because she didn't want me to get put on medication because she, in her mind, for me, it would hamper all of the good things I was doing. And I wasn't, to her, which she wasn't she didn't, she was a teacher. So she just used what she knew as a teacher. But she knew that there were some students that were acting that way out of boredom or out of systems. And there were other students who were acting that way because they did need to have a different kind of focus or something that maybe medication would bring. For me, we never did medication. And depending on the teachers loved me and I loved the teacher, or the teacher hated me and I hated the teacher. And I could either be very successful with teachers who knew how to channel that energy and do stuff, and I would do extra projects and we would do stuff. And then on the teachers who didn't, they thought I was their worst student because I was interrupting their way of giving a 30-minute lecture. And so,
Absolutely.
yeah.
And it's, what do you do with hyperactivity in the classroom? Well, you have to think out of the box.
Yeah.
Old school
He had to
is,
be in the box.
yeah, well, when it's Billy, yes. But when we're thinking about it, no, you got to think about different things. And old school is you would have that student be a teacher's assistant in a lot of ways, taking things to the office, taking things to other places, going and getting coffee.
Yeah, some teachers let me sweep the room, and I loved
Sweep
that.
the room.
That would keep me busy
Yes.
for 30 minutes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you're thinking about different ways that they can be involved and move because the way they're built, the energy has to keep flowing. It's how they learn and engage with the world.
What's the language in the DSM? As though powered by a motor. It's really good words.
Right. And so what they were doing with you in the summer and on breaks, you could go in, you could go out.
Yep.
You were being self-directed. You were learning, you were playing, you were enjoying, you were having fun. The classroom is not built for that because the classroom has not been placed in a way that adults are like, no, we need to be built for this. We need, now you had good teachers that let you get up and go and do projects and things, and great. That's right along that thinking, and being able to work with that and allow that flow to be, because you need that flow to be able to learn.
Right. Yeah.
My brother's a fan of saying that public education was designed to produce factory workers.
I can understand that.
Yeah, because it's like, do this and this only. And if you don't do this, then you're being bad.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, humans are more complicated than that.
And like even during my time, computers were becoming a thing, but not as much of a thing. And I would get in trouble sometimes for just messing with the computer, not doing exactly playing the one game they wanted you to play. Cause I'm like, I don't want to do that. I want to go see, like, can I program my own game? Could I do
Where's
something?
the operating system on this thing?
And so one of the things that I think is encouraging me today, like I went and spoke at one of our local schools that has a program that basically does take at least high school students and puts them in these kinds of fields where they get to work with people from industries. And I walked and I looked at that and I said, man, if I could have had something like this, like that would have been like great. And so I am at least happy that there's some things like that are forming, because most of my education was all just sit in a classroom, do your thing. This is so important. If you mess up, your life will be messed up, and then move on from there. So
No, you weren't going to move on from there. You're going to stay there forever.
true. And then I think like at home, the thing that my parents did that really helped was just they let me do stuff. And then my mom, like usually in the summer, I remember one summer she took an index card box and she just put like 60 things I could do if I ever didn't know what to do next. And I would go to that box and I would pull it out and it could be like, make a whatever out of paper and put it on the wall, or go build a fort out of whatever. And then, then I would just go, oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah. See, and great idea. It's an idea that can happen in the classroom as well. Mm-hmm. I totally agree with what your brother is saying about factory workers. In my middle school, it was an art class, and I don't think the whole thing was on pottery, but it had a pottery, piece to it. And your options were, you could make an ashtray, you could make a coffee cup, or you could make a saucer plate.
And you're like, what if I want to make the Mona Lisa?
And I'm like, I don't like your options.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, teacher's like, well, that's what you can make. And I'm like,
tough beans, live with it, kid.
And that was the attitude. And I was like, well, I mean, you have an attitude, but so do I. I'm not going to make anything. And so for 2 weeks, I just sat there.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't make anything.
You were stubborn enough to go that route.
Did I ever mention I'm the strongest willed person I've ever known?
Well, you didn't sit there and make donkey noises, right? So it'd be like a different set of behaviors.
Well, see, that would get me sent to the principal's office, and that was not the point. He already had a desk for me at the principal's office, and this was not that, because usually I get sent to the principal's office for being Jimmy Neutron. This was a battle. And I didn't want to make these options. These options were dumb.
It was a different kind of civil disobedience.
It was a different kind of thing. And so one day, the teacher's like going, what am I going to do with this kid? He won't make anything. His peers are he tried to get my peers, and they're like, here, you could make this, and here, you could make this. And I'm like, those are cool, but I don't want to do it. Third week in, we're getting towards, I think it was Friday, and the teacher came and he sat down and he said, listen, if you go home and look at your magazines that your parents have, and if you find something in there that you want to make, you bring that to me and you can make it. So the place where he hung himself is, he said, if I find, I can make.
100%.
100%. Okay.
He didn't say, show it to me and I'll approve it first.
Yes, he didn't. And he said,
I feel like that needed to have been in there.
Involve your parents in this.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. And he thought that they would get me, talked down to his three options. And, my dad smoked, but he didn't need any more ashtrays. And so I went home and I thought, okay, I saw the light at the end of the rainbow.
Right. You're like, Mom, where's the magazines?
Well, I was. And I spent all weekend looking.
It's really funny how he decided it had to have been published in a magazine.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's like, why?
Well, I think because the things that are published in a magazine would be at his level to make, not at our level. And my parents
would be like too hard?
Too hard. Now,
why the heck would that have stopped
in
you?
grade school, my parents got me modeling clay, and I would make elaborate dinosaurs.
Nice.
And just, it would take hours and hours and sometimes days, and these dinosaurs would stay around the house, for a long time. So he didn't have that background information, so I can't fault him. I was already at his level. You see, that's why I was so bored with, really.
Right, an ashtray.
Really?
That's a slab with a little curl to it.
Exactly. And so I went through there, and I picked out a picture, and my parents thought the picture was great. And they're like, you should show that to your teacher.
And your parents were on board.
And they're like, if he said that, okay,
he hung himself.
Let's see. Yeah. Let's see what happens. So I went back in, and I was so happy, and I was so ready to go. And the teacher, he came over and he says, Erik, you look like you might have found a picture. And I said, yes, I did. And I pulled the picture out of my notebook, and I slapped it on the table, and there was a Head and Shoulders of Master Yoda.
That's great.
That's what I thought. That's not what he thought. He's like,
made out of clay, or just a picture of
just Master Yoda.
Okay.
Yeah.
He literally said any picture in a
yeah.
magazine, not one that is already made out of clay. Oh my god.
Exactly.
Dude
any
didn't
picture.
Know you.
No. Oh no, not a bit. And I can see his eyes got big, and you could tell that he was thinking, I just screwed myself. And I went, you said anything.
Right.
And he
Nice,
goes,
yep.
did you talk to your parents about this? Yes, I did. What did they say? They would love to see what I come up with. And he's like, okay, go get your clay. And so I went.
To his credit.
To his credit. Because he knew. He's like, you're right. I didn't say anything. And I think he even said, I didn't think this through. And so I
How
come.
many people have told that to you
Oh
in your
my
life,
gosh.
Eric?
Yeah.
If you
Well-
had $1,
Yeah, right? Yeah, when I say Jimmy Neutron, I really mean Jimmy Neutron. Or Indiana Jones. I was the cut from some other cloth type of kid. And so I went and I got the clay. And I
seems
started
entirely
working on it.
reasonable that, like, even if you completely muck it up,
Yep.
Yeah.
who cares?
Who cares?
Right.
The ears are going to fall off. I mean, I think that'd be the primary concern there. You'd need some kind of armature, but
Well, so here's what happened is that I am working on this thing and I am working on this thing. And I've spent that entire week working on this thing. And of course, the kids around me are like kind of snickering and sneering and, what's going on here and blah, blah, blah. Because I didn't have a lot of my usual friends in there. And then he comes by and he stops behind me and he just stopped. And I'm like, is it wrong? And he goes, no, it's extremely good. He goes, you're doing this. He goes, can I give you some advice? And so I'm thinking he's going to say, you need to go back to making a cup, a saucer, and an ashtray. And I'm like, well, that depends. What are you going to say? He goes, no. He goes, you're struggling with the ears.
right.
He goes, I can help you.
I know
with
enough
this.
about clay to know that.
And so he goes, can I help you? And I said, well, sure. And I am struggling with the ears.
Yeah.
I was about ready to cave in Master Yoda because of these ears. And so we sat down and he started showing me what are the tricks to be able to do something like that. Because I didn't need any of the thing that you said. It just needed to be molded in the right proportions. So that it didn't weigh too much down on itself and had to have the right bracing. I don't know any of the terminology, so if I know I got it all wrong. But if you understand clay, you know what I mean. He fashioned the way I should go with those ears, and then he stepped back and let me finish those things. I have this thing 80% done, and now I have kids coming over going, how come he gets to make Yoda?
Ruh-roh.
When did that become an option? I've made all three of those stupid things.
Well, you just tell them it's a combination of a coffee cup and 2 ashtrays.
Well, that would have been an interesting thing I would have said in high school. And I'm like, hey, I don't know. I just didn't want to make those stupid things. And he said I could get a picture and make whatever I wanted. And so now he's got a barrage of middle school students who are going back there going, how come? This isn't fair. I'm telling my mommy. And he goes, you know what? How about this? You all can go get pictures. And you all can make, if you can get a picture of it, you can make it. It completely transformed his entire classroom. And he never was the classroom that only made those 3 things. He's like, I didn't even like these 3 things. But it's what we're told we have to make.
My boss told me I had to tell you to make.
And so he had an entire classroom who made these, and Yoda was the pinnacle.
Wow.
And so when they put it out in the display cases, his boss wanted to know why they hadn't been doing this more often before. Nice. Yeah, it was a very unique conversation between the two of them. But that's a part of it is, we get into these systems of this is the way it needs to be done. This is the way it needs to be done. And then when the kids come around and go, why, or challenge it, they're the ones who are bad.
Yeah.
And so I think there's a couple things that teachers could take away. How do you work with energy? How do you work with creativity? Because your ADHD people have a high intelligence and a high creativity that comes with that, as do other people, as I don't have ADHD. But I was ready for Yoda.
So another alternate title is 2 ashtrays and a coffee cup.
There you go.
For this
yes. Also known as the flaming tombstones or whatever, also known as all of the other.
Well, a big takeaway, I think, to parents is know your kids. My parents knew me. They knew I was ready for this. And if the teacher had gone back on his word, they were ready to come in and stick him to his word.
Yeah. Yep. Well, yeah, it's great pieces of information. And on behalf of all of the kids out there who were like I am, please give a little extra time, take a way to figure out how to work with us, and you'll never know how much that will mean. So, hey, in our website, we have tons of courses. We have an app. You can find that by searching Empowering Choices Parenting. You can go to our website at empoweringchoices.community. If you could do those things, go there, check that out. We would definitely appreciate it. And also on whatever you're watching this on, if you could leave a like and subscribe, that would mean the world to us. We'll see you on the next show.
Yeehaw.
Wow.